Hello and welcome to Westcountry Wanderings. Today we're going to have a tour here at Bristol. Don't expect to cover the entire city today. It's my first visit here to Bristol. We're going to have a look around. We're going to head over towards the old part, what's called the Old City. Have a look around there. Going to head to the Cathedral and Park Street as well. Maybe some other bits and pieces on the journey. So I hope you can join me again here on Westcountry Wanderings in Bristol. Now approaching one of Bristol's most famous churches, and it's got a particular memory for me because in the 1980s my best friend, who sadly passed away a number of years ago now, got married here, and the church is St Mary Redcliffe. So we're going to have a look at that first before we continue our journey through to Old Town. Now I have a memory of the wedding photographs being taken on the steps here outside the church after the wedding service, but we'll go inside and just have a quick look inside this magnificent church here in Bristol. Where the roundabout is currently is where in the 10th century was a hospital called St John the Baptist Hospital, and the grounds here on the opposite side of the road are the Quakers' burial ground, all in around here. Not a lot to see, it's just an open space, but it is still a very sacred ground to the Quaker people that were buried on this very spot, 10th, 11th and 12th centuries. Now this area here is known as the Floating Harbour, so called because in 1809 the silted up part offshoot of the River Avon was cleared and enabled boats to float in this area for the first time. An important part, of course, Bristol being very much a trading port over the centuries, going back a long time. I'm not going to be able to give you all the history of that here today, but just give you a flavour of what is still the floating harbour here in Bristol. Got the famous pub called the Hole in the Wall, which dates back to the 18th century, which means we're now entering Old City, the oldest part of the city, donated by cobbledy streets everywhere, lots around here of interest, so let's have a further explore. So we've now arrived in Queen's Square. This is where all the wealthy merchants, all the trade coming into, things like tobacco and sugar coming in from the West Indies. All the merchants would have lived here around Queen Square. And in 1831, this was the site of the Bristol riots, very famous riots here. Of course, there was riots in Bristol in 1980 as well, some 100 years later. So Bristol is very famous for protesting and rioting. Hopefully, we won't see any of those today. So behind me here is the Arnolfini. That's a famous arts centre here in Bristol. If I just do a 180, you'll then be able to see right back to St Mary Redcliffe Church there with its magnificent spire, where we were earlier. And we have the harbour here, of course. And we're going to make our way, continuing right through Old Town. I'm looking out for a couple of pubs actually. One's called the Old Duke, and another one's called the Landogger Trow. I'll explain more about those when I get there. That's the ship, the Balmoral there. I don't know anything about that, so I'll put the stat running along the bottom. Great to see the cranes there as well. From its glorious days of past, as I say, it was an important trading port here, Bristol. Now the Arnolfini, I've just seen a blue plaque there, is called Ackram's Warehouse, and it was built by an iron founder in these parts, Daniel Ackram, and he was praised by one Samuel Taylor Coleridge. I think I got that the right way round. It might be the other way round as the poet, the one that lived in Nether Stowey there in West Somerset. But yeah, he praised him for his contribution to the arts, and he was a industrialist here in Bristol, Daniel Ackerman. And yet another famous building here in Bristol, that is the Watershed. I think, I could be wrong on this, it's got connections to Aardman Animations, are based in Bristol here, famous of course for creating Wallace and Gromit. Well, I haven't found the specific two pubs I'm looking for yet. I know it's in this area because next to me here, or behind me here, is the famous Bristol Old Vic Theatre, where lots of actors actually started their careers. So let's just go and have a look what productions they've got on here at the moment. Well, it looks like a festive family blockbuster for the pantomime season is Arabian Nights. There we go, Arabian Nights here at the moment. They've also got Four Seasons and something called Metamorphosis as well, so really good theatre. Now what I'm looking for, I think I can see right ahead of me. So we're in King Street at the moment, which leads down to, I think, Welsh Back, and not far from where we were earlier at Queen Square. So we've gone a little bit in a bit of a circle, but just wanted to show you these delightful buildings here, including the two I'm about to show you now. Now this pub here is called the Old Duke, and it's renowned because it regularly has jazz musicians playing in there. Fabulous place. I believe it's called the Old Duke after one Duke Ellington. If that's not correct, I'll put it in below, but I do believe it's got connections to that. That's not the only thing I wanted to show you. It's this wonderful pub here. Isn't that fantastic? I'll tell you more about it. Oh, I'm loving this sign too, because apparently we're 1,700 or 1,452 miles to Transylvania, and Sleepy Hollow is 3,317 miles away. That's brilliant. So this equally famous pub here is called the Landogger Trow. It was established in 1664, still going famously here. And just down that side there is Welsh Back. And that's where it takes its name from. Now you'll probably be able to piece this together if you follow my Canal Series videos. Up and down the River Severn and into the Stroudwater up to Warbridge, well, Brimscombe Port, were trows, the Severn trows of course. And one such was called the Landogger Trow, which came up here right up to Welsh Back, almost next to the famous pub here in Bristol. And this here is the aforementioned Welsh Back. From here in King Street, with the wonderful two pubs, I'm going to take a break now. I'm not heading into the pubs. I'm heading in the direction of Park Street because I want to cover Park Street, which is a famous place for its independent shopping, and also to have a look at Bristol Cathedral. So see you in a bit. Well, welcome back. Managed to get some lunch, coffee and something to eat in Park Street. I'll show you Park Street a little bit later. Behind me here is what was St George's Church. It's now a parkland. It's still a consecrated area with gravestones actually, and it's used as yes, you guessed it, it's Bristol. It's another arts venue. They have a cafe inside there and a gallery as well. Making my way up towards Brandon Hill to have a look at Cabot Tower. Tell you a little bit about that while we're here. Surrounding the side streets of Park Street, or of a street, I've forgotten the name of it, but it runs 90 degrees to Park Street. You have these wonderful Georgian terraces, similar to what you also see in places like Leamington Spa, Cheltenham Spa and Bath Spa. And so this here is Charlotte Street. I wonder if it was named after Queen Charlotte. That was King George III's wife, I think. So now I've climbed up to Brandon Park, which affords grand views across, well, where we were back down at Temple Gate, Temple Meads, looking over there towards Bristol Cathedral. So this is a wonderful open space, green space here in the heart of Bristol. Bristol's got lots of open spaces, particularly out towards Clifton, where you've got the Downs there, Clifton Downs, lots of green space that way. And of course the other side you've got Lee Woods, Ashton Park, Ashton Court and all of that. But the centre of it has this as well, which is really good to see. So this is Cabot Tower, named after one John Cabot, although that's not his real name, well, original name. He was an Italian, he wasn't a Bristolian. He was the chap, a bit like Columbus, that discovered Canada. So I've now climbed up, well, not all the way up Cabot Tower, it's enough I think. You can see the Clifton Suspension Bridge over there on the left of the screen. And on the right of the screen, just popping into view, that is Clifton Cathedral, which I covered on my previous visit to Clifton and the Suspension Bridge. The light's in the wrong place really, but down there is the SS Great Britain, of course, which Louise over on Southwest Sundays did a video out just a couple of weeks ago, I think. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention about Cabot Tower, it's free to get in. It's open, well, normal sort of time, so about 8 in the morning till 5ish, a little bit later in the summertime. One word of warning though, it has one staircase, so one staircase up, same one for people coming down. So just shout out saying coming down or going up as you're doing it, because it's quite difficult to pass. If you don't like enclosed spaces, probably best to avoid it. If you come up to Brandon Hill Park though, you still get equally as good views across the city of Bristol. So this magnificent view across Bristol behind me, we're going to head down now to have a look at Park Street and the cathedral. Hope you're enjoying the tour so far. Oh, if you're from Bristol, know Bristol well, what is the red brick building in front of me? It looks a bit like a prison, dare I say. Is it a prison or is it some other function? Drop a comment below. So we're now heading down Great George Street. We're going to join up with Park Street, which will be kind of in the middle of Park Street. I'll show you that. And then we'll head down to Cathedral Green. Often that's where on the local news and sometimes national news, you have a press reporter there standing outside the council offices there. And yeah, that often appears in the news. But we're going to head down this way, have a look at the shops and facilities down in Park Street first. Now on the corner of Great George Street and Park Street, I just noticed this plaque. Henry Kruger lived here, born in America, 1739, became resident of Bristol and later mayor of Bristol, merchant venturer, and also member of Parliament and a US senator. That's quite some CV. So this is Park Street, one of Bristol's main thoroughfares here, famous for restaurants, nightlife and independent shopping as well. Now this here isn't a cathedral or church, this is Bristol University, one of two universities in Bristol. In fact, this is known as the Wills Memorial Building, clue in the name there, just don't ask where the money came from to build it. So this is currently a film set. Actually it's Berkeley Square, but it's filming going on over the other side of the square at the moment. Costume drama, seen a lady dressed up in Victorian costumes selling flowers. Maybe it's a Dickensian drama. And this here is Berkeley Suites. And the building behind me is also filming going on. It's part of a university, definitely a costume drama. And so yeah, this is Berkeley Crescent here, adjacent to Bristol University. And the opposite side of the road there, that is Bristol Museum and Art Gallery. And this street here is Queen's Road, which leads up, I believe, to another art gallery, and then White Ladies Road into Clifton. So this is a very busy hub here. We're going to head back down to Park Street and the cathedral. So this is College Green. In front of me is Bristol City Council offices. Now before counties like South Gloucestershire, North Somerset, Avon, all of that sort of stuff, Bristol was once divided between Gloucestershire and Somerset. The northern part of it was in Gloucestershire. The southern part of the city lay in Somerset. That all changed, I believe, in the 1300s when Bristol became its own place. And there's the famous green. And right next to the green, on the right of the screen appearing now, is Bristol Cathedral. Bristol Cathedral originated as a monastery founded in the 1140s by Robert Fitzharding, later became Lord Berkeley. The archway formed the entrance to the Abbey's residential buildings. And it remains one of the finest Romanesque archways in the whole of the Westcountry, preserved later on in the 15th century when a story was built above it. And there's the front face of the cathedral in all its glory. And the statue here belongs to Raj Ramoon Roy, who was born in Bengal but moved to Bristol end of the 18th century. He was a writer, philosopher and political reformer. And next to the cathedral is Bristol Cathedral Choir School. I don't film too close because obviously it's a school day today. Going to leave the College Green area. I was completely blown away by that performance of the choir in Bristol Cathedral there. So it's one of the few occasions where I haven't needed to dub the sound. Normally when I'm filming churches and cathedrals, add on some music, that sort of thing. But on that occasion, I haven't had to do it. The choir were practicing there. To me, it sounded tremendous with its organ and the acoustics. And there was a few people actually sat down watching it, were actually openly weeping because they were so moved by the music. I hope we don't get a copyright strike for it and I can use it. I've never heard the music before, so I don't know who it was by, whether it was original composition or not, but I thought the choir were absolutely fantastic and brilliant. So what I'm going to do now, as is coming up to Christmas, as I record this, Christmas Day is 2 weeks today. So what I'm going to do now is head over to Christmas Steps, which I think, according to my Google Maps, is a 10-minute walk away. I think it's along Frogmore Street, off Park Street. We're going to head over there now. The fantastic pub there, similar to the one we saw at Lamdoga Trout. This is the one that's in Frogmore Street, around 1500. It's called the Hatchet Inn. It was first licensed in 1606. We're going to continue along this way. We think we join up with Trenchard Street next. Oh, and the large building behind me is the O2 Academy, Bristol's version of that, one of the top music venues here in Bristol. The building behind me used to be known as the Colston Hall here in Bristol. It's now changed its name to the Bristol Beacon. Changed its name, of course, because of the associations with Colston and slavery. Remember that statue that was pulled down here in Bristol a few years ago? Because of that, it's now been completely rebounded and it opens again shortly. Now, if you're a fan of heavy metal music, you'll probably be familiar with this place. It's the Griffin. Now, these almshouses here in Bristol were founded in 1483 by John Foster, the then Mayor of Bristol. Incredible piece of architecture. Wonderful that it's been preserved. And like something out of a Harry Potter film, here are Christmas Steps. So here we are on the famous Christmas Steps here in Bristol. Christmas Steps 1 back there, and the next flight is below me. This sloping cobbledy street here, lined with independent shops, including a cinema, as well as bridal shops and bookshops as well. Amazing place here, right in Bristol. Now, in this building on the left here lived one Carlos Troa. He was known as the African Blonde, and he lived here until 1876. He was a high rope performer, an abolitionist and philanthropist, and he used his platform to promote the emancipation of slave people. Now, Christmas Steps are alleged to have been here since the 1600s, but nobody knows exactly how they come to have got their name. It's a wonderful place, particularly at this time of year, on the run up to Christmas, with those fantastic shops either side of the cobbledy street and the steps, both the bottom and the top. Now come into the secluded grounds of St Stephen Church here in the heart of the old city of Bristol, with its secret garden and neighbouring cafe. Nice little quiet space just off right there, Horse Fair and Colston Street, where of course it's very busy with all the traffic and buses and all the hubbub of the city that you'd expect. Just to close this video off, from the city of Bristol, we will return to Bristol. Didn't hope to try and cover the whole of Bristol in today's video. Not that it's been that short, I've tried to give you a flavour of the city of Bristol. And it's easy to me to get here. It's only 35 minutes from a station that's not far from where I live, and it's very convenient. You can walk to a lot of places of interest from Bristol Temple Meads Station. So that's it for today here on Westcountry Wanderings. Hope you've enjoyed this video, give you a flavour of Bristol. We will be back here again. Until next time on the channel, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you on the channel again very, very soon. All the best for now. Cheers, goodbye.